Welcome to the Front 7 podcast, right here on YouTube. I am your host, Money Mike. And folks, I am here today to discuss the biggest topic in the NFL right now. The very interesting yet bizarre play that happened in the Seahawks and the Bills game on Monday night. Now, everybody's already up in arms. We know what happened. There was big old confusion over Richard Sherman not getting a rough in the kicker penalty. He got an offside, but he didn't get a rough in the kicker. So the entire thing is just so confusing and one big bottled mess. And really, to be honest, if you think about it, this costs the Bills a chance to win in overtime. The field goal had been made, but then all the confusion happened, and then Buffalo had to re-kick it, and they missed it. So in the end, they were down 6, 25-31. Now, if they made that kick, now you see how Buffalo drove down the field. Now, there were some flags in there from Seattle that helped them get down the field. But Buffalo could have just made a chip shot field goal instead of having to go for it on 4th and goal. And we could have been looking at overtime instead of a Seahawks victory. But once again, officiating in Seattle on a Monday night comes to the forefront. Not how good the game was, how bad the officiating was. And every week, it's just the same old. We get the same response from the NFL. Dean Blandino keeps saying every week, it seems like, oh, the referees missed this call, they should have called this, or whatnot. But when he's doing it every week, and the officials are not being reprimanded for it, it is completely mind-boggling to me how the NFL does not see that the officiating and the officials needs to be more in check. Now, the ratings are going down in the NFL. All the primetime games seemingly have dropped. I haven't seen the ratings yet for the Bills and the Seahawks game, but I did read that there was a 20% drop in the Raiders-Broncos game from the 2015 Week 9 Sunday Night Football game, which was very interesting to me because the Raiders and Broncos battling for first place, and a lot of people had their theories that, oh, well, when you have Tennessee versus Jacksonville, or teams with poor records playing, nobody's going to tune in. Well, here we are. We had the Broncos and the Raiders on Sunday night, and they both have winning records. It was for first place in what is the most competitive division in the NFL, and yet there's a 20% drop in the ratings still. So I'll definitely be interested to see what the ratings were for the Seattle and Buffalo game. But I just cannot imagine the officiating in that game helped any for next week for any ratings increase. Now, is the solution full-time officials? Yes, maybe. Nobody knows. Maybe the NFL should be wise enough to maybe do a test for next year and see which officials would be willing to go full-time for 1 year and test out to see if the calls improve or if they don't improve. Because that's really the only way we're going to find out. You know, the NFL, they like to test rule changes in preseason. You know, they had the extra point moved back. They tested that out in the preseason before it became a regular thing in the regular season. So why not test out full-time officials, see if there's any effect to, okay, full-time officials improves the calling of the flags, the calls on the field are more correct, and that full-time officials are beneficiary to the game of football. That's all at this point the NFL can do and should do. But at the same time, when the referees and the officials are just making mistake after mistake, and the NFL is so far behind technology, when we as fans can sit at home, or even if you're at the stadium, you look at the Jumbotron, you can clearly see things in a much better view. I mean, you could say the fans have a much better view and are more qualified to review challenges based off of the fact that the fans sitting at home watching the game with the high definition cameras, and the only thing that 4K is going to do is make things even worse for the NFL, because 4K is going to make things even more clear than what HD has done. So now they're going to be given more of a better judgment to review plays, review challenges, whatever the case may be, but yet the officials constantly make mistakes and get the calls wrong when the fans at home can see what the correct call is clearly without any issue. And anybody would have saw that Sherman should have been penalized for roughing the kicker. And the fact that he didn't was completely mind-boggling to me, and it's just another mishap by the officiating crew. Now, just wanted to read some stuff off here. You know, one of the things that's very interesting to me is Pete Carroll, the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. Now, he says that when that happened, when it was clearly blatant on TV, that Sherman drilled Dan Carpenter, okay? This wasn't more, he completely drilled him, like literally. You could not miss it. Stevie Wonder could not miss that, folks. But Pete Carroll accuses Dan Carpenter of basically flopping. Now, we see that in the NBA, and players can get away with it because the officiating in the NBA, well, that's another subject for another day, but according to Pete Carroll, he said on 710 ESPN Seattle, he hams it up a little bit too, which makes it bad. Okay, I get it. For kickers and punters, it's easy to flop when a guy gets close enough to you and you want to help your team. Yeah, okay, you can flop easily, but why as a player would you want to do that and hurt the integrity of the game by doing so? Yes, you gain because you can get on that first down, you can move a little bit closer on a field goal, but what I don't understand here is what reason would Dan Carpenter have to flop? I mean, he made the kick. Clearly he made the kick. So there was no need to flop when they just had 3 points. And then essentially those 3 points don't even exist anymore because of the entire mishap that happened. So Carpenter missed it. They're down 6 at the end of the game, and instead of going for it or going for a field goal to go and send the game to overtime, they have to go for it on 4th down, and basically that whole entire sequence changed the game. The officiating crew impacted the game. They changed the outcome of the game, in which was a game that should have went to overtime. And like I said, we are not strangers to this happening in Seattle on Monday night. There was that call last year with Detroit, and then there was the infamous replacement official touchdown interception call, which by the way is intriguing. That was actually very intriguing to me as I was doing research for this video. The NFL had a lockout in 2012, the officials locked out. So the NFL had to bring in replacement officials in order to call the games. And and so this lasted till about week 3, I believe it was. But about 3 or 4 weeks. Then the infamous touchdown interception call was made, and basically from that point, the NFL had said, you know what, we need to get our officials back. So a deal was done quickly, right out of the gate, right after that call had happened, and the regular officials were back officiating games. So what I'm trying to figure out here is why is it that the replacement officials essentially, I mean, that really was the only bad call that I really remember the replacement officials making. Why was it that the replacement officials were rushed off the field, off the game, out of the game completely when they made a mistake, but yet the regular officials, take Walt Anderson was the official on Monday night, and you see others that make mistakes over and over, but yet nothing is done to reprimand them. So why is that? Why doesn't the NFL punish the officials the same way they did with the replacement officials and say, you know what, you screw up like this, you have maybe 3 chances, you screw up 3 times, you're fired, we replace you. But yet they seemingly make mistakes and are able to keep their jobs. I don't understand the thinking there by the NFL. It just shows that they're hypocrites, if you ask me. I mean, when you're rushing replacement officials off the field for one bad call, but the regular officials are constantly making bad calls, week in, week out, in every game, and nothing is done. The thing here, we usually listen to Dean Blandino make excuses. A lot of fans believe that Dean Blandino, he makes excuses for the bad calls. And, the fans, they don't want to hear it. They're tired of it. And maybe that's another reason why the ratings are down. Maybe it's just because the fans are tired of the flags on every play and the players just can't play. I don't know. Maybe that's one of the reasons why. I'll get into the ratings later on in another show. But here's the other thing I want to know. How is it that the official can make one call and say that, okay, this is the correct call, this is what I'm going to call it as, but the vice president of officiating, which is Dean Blandino, come out and say that they were wrong? Now, here's what Walt Anderson, the official in the Seattle Buffalo game, said. We were shutting the play down. That would be my call. I just didn't feel like the actions and the contact, because we were shutting the play down, warranted a foul. Okay, so I get it. You were blowing the play dead for offsides, but if he was already, but here's the thing. Walt Anderson here says he was in the process of blowing the play dead, meaning that the play had happened, the play had occurred before they could blow it dead. So why wouldn't you roll 2 flags on Seattle and say, okay, offsides, unnecessary roughness, re-kick, boom, done. That's it. As simple as that. And then we had that whole entire sequence, and it was just like, oh my gosh, the worst thing that could happen to the NFL. Because on Monday Night Football in prime time, when the ratings in prime time games have declined every week, and then the official makes a big blunder that affected the outcome of the game, and the NFL wonders why the ratings are down. But I would have to think the fans are just getting tired of putting up with these officials making the wrong calls. And then each week, the NFL sitting there coming out saying, hey, well, referees missed this call, they shouldn't have called this. Well, the game's already over. They've already called that. there's nothing you can do. So apologizing or saying that you missed a call, all you're doing is saying that your officials absolutely suck and they don't do their jobs right. But yet you allow them to keep those jobs. And what I don't know what's worse. But I mean, the whole entire thing was just so bad. But the fact that with 5 seconds left, the referee is spotting the ball, maybe it was under five, which caused a delay of game on Buffalo. Like it was literally like how is it that the official can cause a penalty because they didn't reset the play clock? Now, Dean Blandino here, once again contradicting Walt Anderson. The referee didn't think that the contact was severe enough. Walt Anderson needs a new pair of eyes because that contact was severe enough. It was clear. It was clear watching it at home. And again, as I said, when fans have the view and the technology we have today in front of us, you see things that the officials aren't seeing. It makes you kind of wonder, well, what are the officials looking at when they're going under the booth or under the going under review when they review penalties or review play challenges? Okay, so again, you know, Walt Anderson said, hey, the contact wasn't severe, but yet clearly from home in high definition cameras, clear as day that there was enough contact, that it was severe enough, just like Blandino said, and yet Walt says one thing, Dean says another thing, but as fans at home have this technology to us that allow us to see these things in a lot better view, and does make me wonder, what are the officials looking at? Does the NFL provide the officials the same technology that is afforded to us fans when they go under the hood to review a play? Because to me, when I look at it, I would think that you would have maybe some kind of TV broadcast view or a view from the TV broadcast of what happened, and or something of that just reflects the current technology that we have to give the officials the best equipment needed to make the right calls. And I'm wondering if the NFL, just isn't providing the officials the best equipment needed in order to review challenges and review calls on the field correctly. So, I mean, I don't know. At this point, you'd have to wonder, when will the NFL finally start reprimanding these officials for making these big mistakes? And will we ever see new officials come in or to replace some of these guys that have been there for a while? They're getting old. Their eyes aren't what they used to be. We all know that. I know a lot of fans say, "Oh, the referees are old." We need some young eyes in there. We need some younger officials, faster officials that can keep up with the pace of the game today. And maybe so. I mean, maybe so, but I will at least start with maybe a chip in the ball to help determine where the ball is when it comes to fourth and inches, whether they got over the goal line, and all that jazz. Put a chip in the ball that can tell somebody maybe in the booth at the stadium that can kind of keep track of where the ball is and keep track of the chip, and it can kind of diagram kind of where it is on the field when things happen. And also it mind boggles me too, where we have the technology also to remove things from pictures, from screenshots, You can go to Photoshop, you can remove something from a picture, you can add something to a picture. And when I look at things, I say, well, why can't we have the technology in the NFL to where when you have these mad scrambles for the football, and it's just a dog pile, and you don't know who's got the ball, or you don't know, there's so many players in the way, you know, why can't we just digitally remove players to be able to have a clear view of what's actually happened at the bottom of the pile? What happened? Did he cross the goal line? Things like that. It just seems to me the NFL is behind in technology. Technology has passed the NFL by, and the NFL just refuses to kind of catch up to 2016. These kind of mistakes should not be happening, folks. This is 2016 where we have the technology to be able to make these calls 100% correct every week. We have high definition TVs, high definition cameras, we have the equipment, technology to digitally remove people, objects from images, screenshots, things like that. We have the technology to put a chip in the ball to help better determine the location of the ball, but yet the NFL is just so far behind that these mistakes keep happening, and we're going to keep talking about them until the NFL decides to get with the times. Now, maybe there'll be a day where they'll listen to Bill Belichick and they'll make penalties reviewable. I mean, I don't get why we can't have penalties be reviewed, especially offensive, defensive pass interference, where, a lot of people, again, were actually saw a GIF of Richard Sherman just leveling a Bills receiver on the final play of the game, and a lot of people were talking about it, and it was literally the one thing that really surprised me about this was that the quarterback scrambling out of the pocket, in this case Tyrod Taylor, by rule that prohibits the prohibited yeah, by rule the prohibition against illegal contact disappears. So it would have been pass interference if if the hit occurred while the ball was in the air in the direction of the player who was flattened. Now I'm bringing this off of Pro Football Talk. Now, okay, why does it matter if the ball is if the quarterback scrambles out of the pocket or not? I don't understand. If a guy commits a foul, regardless the quarterback's in the pocket or out of the pocket, the flag should be thrown. And when you see what Sherman did, yes, it is legal, but again, I think those kind of things. I mean, something like that though. Why is it illegal when a quarterback is out of the pocket? But if he's in the pocket, it's illegal. So here we are again, and it's a complete mishap of inconsistent rules. If you're in the pocket, it's a flag. Out of the pocket, it's not a flag. It should be a flag regardless. And honestly, this is the kind of stuff that the fans are just tired of. All this confusion over what's a catch, not a catch, what's pass interference, what's not pass interference. Because you see so much of ticky-tacky calls when it comes to pass interference. You don't really know because one official in one game will call pass interference one way, but then another official in another game will call pass interference in a different way. That's inconsistent to what the other official called pass interference on. I don't know. It's getting interesting to me to the NFL that it's just mind-boggling to me that the NFL continues to allow this to happen without any penalty to the officials at all. I mean, Rex Ryan, he was mad about it too. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous, Ryan said. It was wrong. Clear what happened. The guy roughed our kicker, jumps off side and roughs our kicker. And then because we got to go out and attend to him because it wasn't called, we had to spike the ball. And of course they've got to put the K ball out there, and don't reset the clock. So from a officiating standpoint, I think you can do a little better than that. This whole entire thing has caused an uproar on Twitter. Players were upset. I was reading that Drew Brees had made a comment about how the the ratings decline has something to do with the league office, the fans losing trust in the league office, and this doesn't help them at all in this case of gaining any trust back towards the league office. So let me know in the comments below. I'm done with this. So let me know in the below. Yeah. So let me know below in the comments, what do you think should happen to officials who make mistake after mistake? What would you do to punish the officials? Should they be punished? Should they be fired? Do we need full-time officials? What is your solution to this big of mistakes and even the small mistakes that happen every Sunday and Monday and Thursday? What would be your solution to minimize these mistakes? And as I said, I really think that the NFL has let technology pass them by and they're not using to their full advantage, which is why it's leading to the fact that we can see clearly what the play is. We can clearly see the play. We can clearly see where a guy steps out, where his feet inbounds. We can clearly see where the ball is, but yet these officials make these mistakes of either make these mistakes of these incorrect calls, and every week it's the same thing with the NFL coming out and saying, hey, the officials screwed up, this is what should have happened, long after the game's already over, and nothing can be done to change it. I've been your host, Money Mike. Again, you've been listening to the Front 7 podcast. Leave your comments below. I have a lot more coming up this week. Hopefully this week, maybe next week. But as long as the NFL keeps giving me stuff to talk about like this, then I'll probably have shows every week.